Hello, my name is Jennifer Nicolai, and I am the Associate Director of Stewardship and Special Events here at the San Diego Symphony, and I am happy to welcome you all to this week's episode of Lunch and Listen. You just had the pleasure of hearing from San Diego Symphony Orchestra's violinist Shen Yeh, and momentarily you will get to engage in a live Q&A session with Shen Yeh and Martha. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A box where you can submit any questions you may have for him, whether it's about his background and training, what he's been up to during this time away from the hall, or what he's most looking forward to as we start to gather back. You also have a chat box at the bottom of your screen where you can submit any questions or comments that you have there throughout the program. Thank you all for tuning in, and a special thank you to our Lunch and Listen sponsors at California Bank and Trust. It's now my pleasure to introduce San Diego Symphony CEO Martha Gilmer.
Nice to see you and welcome everybody to another Lunch and Listen here in April. We're getting closer and closer to what I know is going to be the return to live performances. So it's been great sharing these lunchtimes with you, and I can't wait until we're all together. So Yeh Shen, please join us. We're delighted to have you with us today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. That was a beautiful performance.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you played so beautifully. And I know you've been here in San Diego throughout this time and finding some time for yourself. I also know, just jumping right into the pool, of your passion for music learning and, you know, also your creativity in developing online apps and ways of interacting with music, which is kind of unique in our orchestra. So I really wanted to start by talking to you about your most recent developments and kind of how you go about this.
My making music apps?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I always thought music learning is a very long journey for somebody who's interested, but who wants to experience the joy of making music. But actually the part of to learn to get to that point is very long. And I thought, wouldn't that be kind of cool to use technology to make it easier for people to instantly feel the essence and the happiness of making music, helping them to learn, and also exposing great music to them rather than just, you know, what they hear from the background. So I had that dream for a long time, since 2004, 2003, or something like that. But it's actually not such a simple thing to do. And then, so I used to kind of hire my cousin. When I have some savings, I hired him because he lives in Singapore. He's a programmer And then you know how programmers, they're very busy, and then they don't like to code. That's like, you know, not enjoyable for them. But so I kind of had him helping me. But I find it's very costly to research, you know, when on my salary, trying to also to pay it just became very financially difficult. So I just decided, you know, without going to work, I'm going to learn coding myself. So I've been learning coding, and so I can actually produce apps, and especially prototypes on my own, so I can actually save money. So I would take tutoring online and from experts, but then I would just make apps on my own. And I'm actually very happy that because I could do this on my own, I could have changed little details here, there. And so I actually feel like I have something really promising and really presentable to, you know, so, and I'm excited about that.
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
how did you go about, you just taught yourself coding, or you went online courses, or?
I went on, I self-learned, but I also pay to tutor with experts, you know, and so there's a person in Canada I will take like monthly lessons from, and I would try to solve the problem myself. But if I can't, I'm just, you know, I spend hours trying to figure something out, but I can't. And then he's like, oh, okay. And then he would do the kind of like a Zoom thing live online, and he would do it. Just, I'm like, oh, okay. But he said I'm already at intermediate level, which is for C# programming, and I'm really happy to, because most of app designers, they don't code. So I feel I can code, I can actually make my idea to present to people. I would love to show you a couple apps I made you know, sometime that I want to make it into reality. So now I can actually present the idea, not just using a PowerPoint thing, but I actually can have people try on the device itself. So they understand what I'm trying to get. So.
That's great. You sent me a link, and I'm going to find time this weekend to try it out. So.
Oh, I made a couple of apps, and one of the things is that I thought would be kind of interesting if I can use my you know, new skill, and then creating prototypes, presenting to you, and see what you can, if something that might be helpful to the symphony or not, you know.
Well, thank you. That's fascinating. Do you also teach? Is teaching? Do you have students here? Do you?
I actually have not been successful. I mean, well, I haven't really pursued it teaching this, because I find students, they are, a lot of them, because I grew up in China, I'm used to this very strict method. So, and I have not tried to just be, how do you say, try to teach beginners.
So talk to us about the strict method in China that you grew up in.
Well, it's more about having a discipline. I understand. I mean, the reason I'm making these apps is I also understand that most people, especially these days, my son plays trumpet, and he's being the honor orchestra, state honor program, you know, for several years now. And I understand how young people love music and they want to play it, but they don't know the steps in between started and to get where they want. And there's a lot of, you know, discipline, a lot of how do you say, training. And that is the part that's really, really difficult for them to wanting to, you know, put their video games down and then spend time to work on something just repeatedly, physical training, muscle training, and also mental training too. And when I remember, see, physically, I'm not the top talented people. My parents got me into this because they thought, oh, our kid is really, musical, really talented. But compared to other ones in China that I grew up with, I'm probably above average, and and so in the school there was this competitive environment. You are expected to excel, and that actually put a lot of pressure on me, to be honest with you. And I would try to, not just me, but a lot of other my friends. We try to do what the best we could get to um, be considered acceptable by our family or by teacher, the standard. And I remember, so when I was growing up, there was absolutely uh, no air conditioning in China at that time. And Shanghai was south of the Yangtze River, so in the winter there's no heating. So we were living I was living the dormitory in the middle school, right? So we will have washcloth hang in the dormitory. We shared with 6 people on a rope, and in the morning, in the winter, you can see these the washcloth. They're all frozen because, and we were expected to eat and then practice, and I remember, so there was this story we were taught. I don't know if it's true or not, that Yo-Yo Ma's father used to get him to wake up immediately playing something perfectly without preparation. So I remember one time, so I was saying, I had a little snow. I remember I said, okay, that sounds good. Now let me put my finger in the snow, let it froze, let them freeze. Then I will try to play again, see if I can do well. Actually, I did that also before I auditioned for my first job. It kind of mentally, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I think if you're truly talented, you shouldn't be doing that. But I use that. I use that to how do you say, to get myself mentally believe I can do this. I gone through hell and I sound pretty good. So now I can, and now I can compete with. I remember this is exactly what I thought when I won my first position in Houston, and there were 8 people. They were looking for one. I got into the final, and before I walked on the stage, I remember that I just kind of how audition is. It's you're pretty much the mercy of the destiny, and
Sure.
I said to myself, at least I really gone through. I put my fingers in the freezer, all the tricks when I developed myself when I was in high school. And so I mentally felt very at ease. That's only for people who are not top-notch talented. I have stories of people are so talented, like woke up just half an hour before concert without warming up, going on stage, Frank Huang. I mean, that kind of thing. But anyway.
So you were kind of in this Olympic athlete training where you made it harder for yourself during the process so that when you got to audition, it would feel easier.
Yeah, it's not something, I'm saying.
You're not recommending that to others?
No. No. I actually think as a parent, especially if you want children to be really to be in music, you really have to be really critical what supportive way what their true talent level is. And but when I was growing up, it was just this environment, so you have to be great, and so
what do you think your parents, what was the motivation to exposing you to music, their motivation? Because they thought you had natural ability?
At that time, it's probably for a better path of life, what they consider, because I was a really, really good student in math, and when I was 4th grade And my grandfather was, one of the top scientists in China for the like a rare earth type of a mineral type of, and he was kind of like the leader of that field. And they also, my grandfather always thought I should be like a mathematician, solving the equation of 1 + 1 = what. But my parents kind of just decided, I should be in music because I will be going to Shanghai, which is nice. Really, I love that city, and have a life in the city. That time, it was a question of whether in the 70s, it was a question whether after you graduate from high school, you would go to countryside to be a peasant for a while, or, so by view of music, you can be in Shanghai
in the city
and playing orchestra, but I think that there's a lot of practical, I actually never thought I was a great violinist when I auditioned for the school, but my first teacher really helped me. And then suddenly I'm like a half a year later, I'm on radio, on TV, all that kind of things. So they changed the life, but also create a certain expectation and also pressure to maintain that kind of.
So did your parents imagine that you would come to the United States to live? Was that?
I don't think it initially was like that, because this is, we're talking about 1978 when I was 10 years old to go to elementary school in Shanghai.
Yeah.
By 1985, they are like, hey, you should go to America. And I'm like, I don't want to. I want to live in China. But they, you obey to your parents. Then they send me out, and so I cried.
So many amazing musicians from the Shanghai Conservatory, from Beijing, both conservatories, and you must keep in touch with them. Many of them are in this country.
Yeah. You
went to school with.
Yeah, and we have several in our orchestra too.
Right.
And I consider them my class. How do you say, schoolmate? Yeah.
So, we were talking before a little bit. You've played with the orchestra in this time period on the Shell stage, and I presumably also at Copley. When you got to come back to music making with your colleagues, what did that feel like, or what did it feel like when you couldn't? I mean, that had to be. Everyone has reported it being a real challenge this year.
Well, I feel it was kind of, you suffocated for a while, and then you are suddenly breathe in this air. I to express, I was quite distressed about the situation, how it's going, the uncertainty of it. And we also, part of this, I wanted to make sure the orchestra wanted to, it's going to be strong, vibrant. But when you're locked in your house, afraid to go outside, it's very difficult. And so when I went on the stage, I felt this is in reality, actually. And there was, it was so complicated because it's just not the coronavirus. There were so many, we were all watching on the news, and it started unfolding all last year, and it was difficult to see, just to imagine what would happen. But then when I was on the stage, it felt like I took a breath. That's kind of almost a relief. I don't know it's the right way to say it. It's just kind of, this is this is actually what's going to happen. And it's a magical place, and I hope we all work towards making it a place people all throughout the world wanted to come to experience it.
Yeah. Also during this time, we've all been able to hear you play repertoire that often doesn't get performed by symphony orchestras anymore. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
there's a sort of thought that if you have that many people in an orchestra, then you should be playing, you know, Mozart and Beethoven and Mahler and Shostakovich.
Mhm.
But these beautiful pieces that we've been able to play either for, you know, strings only or, you know, some of the smaller works. Was it when you were a student, you might have discovered some of those, but it's been a while. How was it to return to those?
It's actually inspirational. I actually have made a project of mine. I wanted to play these, you know, that like the first piece for that just short but really difficult, very virtuosic. It inspired me. I wanted to go through, make a recital repertoire of those impossible pieces. And almost like a challenge, but also kind of joyful because it takes your mind really focused just about what you are as a person, basically, in the deep inside, because my training background, it's,
Mhm.
you know, making beautiful sound here. Does music line actually mean something? How I should say it to people, you know, and that kind of thinking. It's completely divorced from the reality, but it's that beautiful part of making music. It's just not part of the regular world. It's something really internally. I don't know how to describe it in English, but it's just very special that you cannot use words to describe it. But it's part of our humanity, you know,
Mhm.
and also that's why I I wanted to create these music apps because I feel if there's more efficient and more economical ways to share these kind of essence of making music, the joy of it with people can, even if they're not going to be great, just like, you know, how like playing video games, like a lot of people are passionate about playing soccer on buttons, you know. I was playing a lot of soccer on my foot, you know, when I was growing up. But the kids these days, they don't like going to a lot of sports. They like staying home, but they like to playing basketball on joysticks, you know.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have them say, feel like, oh my God, I can play a Mozart symphony, even though I don't play instrument. I can play with my friends together. Like we can make a youth orchestra just using a mobile device together, you know? So that's, I was a youth orchestra conductor of Santa Rosa Symphony, and I know how kids, they can love music if it's guided the right way. So, and I'm trying to create it so more people, even they don't have great instrument skills, they can feel it that way.
What I hear a lot of people saying, and we're experiencing it right now, is this virtual is fine, but it just now makes me realize how important the live experience is. The
Absolutely.
deprivation from hearing the, you know, I always say you can hear an orchestra breathe together and you can literally feel the vibration or the impact of the sound physically in your body, which is not the case with Zoom. So that what you're talking about in technology is still you look to enhance or to introduce but not replace the live experience.
You cannot replace that, Martha. You know, what's happening on the stage when we play, I'm just so grateful there's some, you know, the support to make this happen in this country because there's no government help, right? And it's just beyond words to describe. It's you know, it's a place that spirits meets on stage. It's not people playing instrument. It's when you make music at this highest level, it's something that it's spiritual event that's happening. That's for me. Sometimes when it's so great, I say I can give up my life for just playing just for this moment, that kind of during the concert, you know, that kind of
That feels.
yeah.
So we have two questions. One is, how did your experience as a conductor, or how does your experience as a conductor influence your playing? Very good question.
Having been actually, did a lot of conducting for a while, I find that as a conductor, you think more about music from a overall. For instance, before I was doing started conducting, I would just think about phrasing, more technical. I mean, fingering, intonation when I play, and now I find the most beautiful experiences, even though I don't conduct on the stage. When I play, I'm actually kind of feeling what the conductor is thinking more clearly. And also I can see the bigger picture of where the meaning, the destiny of this phrase is going to end at. Actually, that is if there's a friend have told me about a quote that Daniel Barenboim said. I don't know if it's true, but if you're from Chicago, so basically he says, well, the reason the Chicago Symphony is so great, but it's also hard to conduct, is because there are 80 people conduct in the orchestra. My point is that if the more people can think about this way of music making, right? And it's really special because you're not just thinking about beats and bars. You're like, where is he going? What is he trying to do? And you're thinking 20 or even sometimes 30 seconds down the road. So it becomes kind of like a mind communication, less than beat, and that kind of thing. And
I do know musicians, not string players usually, because you don't have a break, but who have a score on the stand, who are just curious about how it all fits together as they're not just their part.
Yeah, I used to bring scores to rehearsals all the time, and when I was in Houston, we played Rite of Spring, Carnegie Hall, and I memorized my part and I memorized the whole score. But yeah, it's really it's a different mindset, and I really glad I did it, and I'm actually hopefully I'll do it again in the future.
So when you were in Houston, who was music director?
Eschenbach.
That's what I thought. He did a great job building that orchestra.
Yeah, there was a good chemistry there, and we were and my wife at that time was working a second horn in LA Philharmonic, and LA wanted me to go play in sub all the time, and so I have all these friends in both places, and I get to play, and LA, technically it was just really, really, really super orchestra, but as a person, when I played in Houston, it felt a spiritual thing on stage. I know Christoph tried to help me to give me some coaching, guest conducting gigs once in a while. And I don't think he was able to copy that kind of, remake that kind of chemistry elsewhere. And I think it's almost like a marriage type of thing. You meet the right person. It doesn't really mean you have to be we're the greatest, you're the greatest, but it is something that's special.
People talk about that time,
Yeah.
And it is a chemistry between a conductor and an orchestra.
Yeah. I remember we were playing Shostakovich 8. It's really a loud beginning, right? At the one point, it really felt it was a battle. And I said to myself, I was playing, I just remember, I said to myself, if this is a war, I would take a bullet for him. That kind of thoughts going through my mind on stage.
Yeah, and what a beautiful pianist as well. This Mozart conducting from the keyboard was special. Okay, what is the name of the technology you've developed for classical music appreciation for adults? From Karen Mudgett. Karen, I think you guys get the prize, not the only prize, because others have been here for every single Tuesday, so welcome back.
Well, I made a memory training because I researched a little bit. There are tens of millions of people in this country play video games. I'm talking about 50s and up. It was, I think, 36 million of them do play video games just to keep their mind sharp. So I said, and I have this cousin said, oh, you know, I try to memorize the song because I want to keep keep my memory sharp. And some people memory numbers. And so I said, why don't I just create an app that there are thousands, literally unlimited amount of the tunes they can memorize while helping them. They can, without music training, you can play real tunes on piano keyboard instantly. And then during that process, try to help you to memorize the tune. I'm playing on the keyboard and while watching great music performances. So I have this prototype. I'm ready to show people, and I wanted to see if I can, you know, find an organization, or maybe with the San Diego Symphony, we can use that to promote our concerts. People actually get to play the tune and memorize it, you know, and then come to the concerts.
We'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
So what do you want to say to our audiences in terms of coming back? How does the orchestra feel about audiences returning to listen again?
Well, I just hope it gets to a place that's safe for them. And there is, for me, it's for you know, the audience we feel, I feel I miss them, and it feels different when you just play on the stage with a video camera shooting an empty hall. It's a complete human experience, and I just feel like it's missing a part of it for me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not much longer. I think you have Bach for us here at the end.
Yes, a calm Bach Andante from the second sonata, Bach sonata for the solo violin.
Perfect. We've heard lovely Bach throughout this pandemic, and I can never refer to things as silver linings, but there have been beautiful musical moments, and I can't wait to hear Bach live again as well. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you, Yeh, for being here and for sharing your thoughts and your passion with us. We will leave you with one last piece. Next week, we do have San Diego Symphony Orchestra's bassist, Samuel Hager. And in the meantime, stay connected with us on the Symphony stream. We look forward to seeing you all very soon. Have a good rest of your week.